Welcome back to our series, and thank you for watching as we continue our detailed journey in scale modeling. Today, we're diving back into the assembly of the massive upper hull of the famous German U-boat, a true marvel in 1:35 scale. Stretching to about 60 centimeters in length, this segment of our build is as detailed as it is challenging. Before we begin the painting process, there's a crucial preparatory step that demands our attention. As you can observe in these close-up shots, achieving perfection in the world of scale modeling often lies in the details. This means we need to carefully remove any leftover plastic from the manufacturing process, using the right tools for the job, such as a diamond file or a rotary sander. There is a significant amount of this excess material in areas that are particularly challenging to access, which is essential to address for ensuring our model's realism and precision. Always ensure you're wearing a proper mask when sanding plastic. It's an essential practice in scale modeling to protect your lungs from fine plastic particles. This simple step in safeguarding your health allows you to concentrate on the precision and artistry of your work. In this episode, our focus is predominantly on the one large upper hull piece, meaning there isn't as much gluing and building as usual. Nevertheless, there are some smaller parts that require our attention and need to be attached. To prepare these pieces, we meticulously remove the remaining supporting plastic using a sharp hobby knife. Then, we sand them down to achieve a smooth, even surface, ensuring every component fits seamlessly onto the hull, enhancing the overall detail and authenticity of our model. Let's turn our attention to the final position of our model in the diorama, a fascinating element we'll be crafting in one of the upcoming episodes. To enhance visibility and add a dynamic angle, the subject is positioned obliquely within the diorama. This required the removal of some parts of the plastic. Given the substantial size of the subject, which exceeds my recording space, I had to perform this adjustment off camera. However, here is the result, showcasing the modifications that will enable our model to fit perfectly within its future dioramic home. These remnants occur when the Dremel spins too fast, overheating the plastic during cutting. Thankfully, they can be easily removed and the surface smoothed out for a clean finish. With these preparations complete, we're now ready to apply the primer. On this occasion, I'm using Vallejo's primer, which, while not necessarily the best option due to its tendency to form a latex-like layer rather than adhering directly to the plastic, is suitable for our current needs. The size of this model poses a unique challenge, as it doesn't fit into my spray booth. This limitation means that using a lacquer-based primer is not feasible for safety reasons. leading us to opt for this specific primer despite its unique characteristics. The painting of the deck, while following the technique used in the first episode, takes a slight turn towards artistic interpretation. We begin with a dark wood tone, adding lighter highlights to create a more pronounced wood-like appearance. This is followed by a spray of panzer grey over the entire length. While in reality, the deck was treated with a dark grey lacquer or a similar substance that may have worn off over time, our approach leans more towards an artistic representation, giving the model a slightly more pronounced wooden look than it might have historically had. Let's call it artistic freedom, allowing us to add a personal touch to our model while still respecting its historical roots. Moving on to the next step in our process, we apply pre-shading on the side walls of the U-boat. This step adds depth and dimension before the final colors are applied. By carefully shading along panel lines and around details, we enhance the realism of the model, creating a visually compelling effect that mimics natural shadows and wear. Pre-shading is a subtle yet effective way to bring out the intricate features of our scale model, setting the stage for the next layers of paint. To achieve the look of an old, weathered U-boat, we now apply 2 coats of chipping fluid. This fluid will need about 40 minutes to dry, setting the stage for the final color layer that will give our model its convincingly aged appearance. Now we proceed to apply the final color. Once this layer has dried, creating chips becomes an effortless task, using a stiff brush that's been slightly dampened with water. This technique allows us to reveal the colors from the pre-shading process underneath, varying in intensity. Some areas will exhibit more pronounced chipping, while others will show a subtler effect, contributing to a more authentic and varied weathered look that reflects the unique history and character of our U-boat model. Additionally, a brass toothpick can be an invaluable tool for creating chips, offering precise control and the ability to target specific areas. Similarly, using high-grit sandpaper, starting from 1000, can also be effective in achieving a more nuanced chipping effect. In contrast to the intricate work on the upper hull, the lower hull is treated more simply. It's sprayed with slightly darker shades of grey. This straightforward approach balances the detailed upper section, ensuring the overall model retains a cohesive yet varied appearance. And now, the moment we've all been waiting for, let's begin the weathering process. The model has been coated with glossy varnish and given enough time to dry, priming it perfectly for the next phase. So it's time for the wash, an important step in bringing out the model's character. For each section, we'll use a different enamel color. This variation in hues will highlight the distinct features and textures across the subject. This step is where our model truly starts to take on its final, captivating form. After allowing the paint about 30 minutes to dry, it's time to use a removing sponge for the next step. In this process, I'm not using any thinner, as the paint can still be effectively removed without it. This careful removal technique enhances the weathering effect, subtly revealing the layers beneath and adding to the overall realism of our model. The deck of the model also receives a washing treatment. Unlike other areas, this wash will not be removed, almost completing its final look. The retention of the wash on the deck adds depth and enhances the wooden texture. Later on, we will further refine this effect by adding oil paints, enriching the color and bringing a new level of detail to the deck. Oil paints are applied dry and then smudged for our next step. A variety of different colors are used for this purpose, with each hue carefully chosen to contribute to a highly realistic look. This technique allows for subtle blending and layering of colors, creating a rich, textured appearance. The same blending technique is now employed on the side walls, utilizing darker brown tones. These deeper colors not only enhance shadow effects, but are also great for simulating dirt and grime buildup. This approach adds a layer of authenticity, depicting the natural accumulation of dirt over time, which is typical for such vessels. Excess oil paint can be easily removed with a suitable cotton swab. Due to the long drying time of oil paints, there's no rush in the process, allowing for careful adjustments. The ability to gently remove or adjust the oil paint until it's fully dried is precisely what makes it such a popular choice for weathering effects in scale modeling. White oil paints are now used to simulate the salt residues common on U-boats due to their extensive exposure to salt water. This technique adds a realistic touch, capturing the essence of their harsh maritime environment. As we continue, the next step involves a technique known as oil streaking. First, various oil paints are applied to the lower hull, and then these are drawn down in streaks. Using a flat brush soaked in odorless thinner, we gently blend these streaks from the top downwards. This blending is done with care, moving from side to side until we achieve the desired streaked effect, adding a realistic, weather-beaten look to our model. Similar effects are created on areas meant to appear particularly dirty. This time, we use the appropriate shades of brown and a lesser amount of odorless thinner. By adjusting the color and the quantity of thinner, we can precisely control the intensity and spread of the streaks, ensuring they convincingly represent grime and dirt accumulation. Streaking effects can also be applied to the side walls of the model. This is where the model builder can truly indulge in creativity, as this model provides ample space for such detailed work. The broad surfaces of the side walls are ideal for experimenting with various streaking techniques, allowing for a range of effects, from subtle weathering to more pronounced signs of wear and tear. This stage is an excellent opportunity to add personal touches, and remember, this is just my interpretation of how these effects can be achieved and enhanced. If you find yourself captivated by my model building techniques, feel free to hit that subscribe button. Your support is immensely valued. Thank you for accompanying me on this adventure in scale modeling. Applying rusty oil paints to the side walls, we replicate the technique from the conning tower featured in our first episode. This brings in an element of continuity and aged charm. We then focus on the rivets, using a panel line wash to emphasize their volume. Once this has had time to set, we carefully remove any excess with precision tools. This not only highlights the rivets, but also adds a subtle complexity to the surface, enriching the visual texture without overstating the model's appearance. The deck panels are next treated with an oil dot technique, a method that adds a nuanced layer of color and texture. Following this, dirt is applied to specific areas. This dirt is then worked into the surface using a stippler brush, allowing for a natural integration into the deck's overall appearance. This careful application and blending create a more lived-in, realistic effect, bringing the deck to life with subtle yet significant details. The hatches are now being constructed. The kit includes a total of 3 hatches in 2 different sizes. However, the provided handles for these hatches are somewhat lacking in finesse. To address this, we replace them with custom-made handles. Following our standard practice, we first remove any excess plastic using a hobby knife and sandpaper. Once this is done, we proceed to close the pre-existing holes with putty. After the putty is set and created a smooth surface, new holes are carefully drilled. To replicate the handles, we use lead wire, an effective material for this level of detail. The process is made more manageable with a handy little tool from Trumpeter, specifically designed for creating handles in 1:35 scale. This tool simplifies the task, allowing for the creation of consistent, realistic handles that match the scale and detail of our model. The use of lead wire, combined with this specialized tool, ensures that these small components are both accurate in scale and high in quality. After a bit of meticulous tinkering, we finally have our handle ready and can move now on to the painting phase. Preshading is the next step in our painting process. For this, a thin layer of white paint is carefully sprayed from above onto the black primer, creating shadows and depth for our final paint coat. Once the paint has dried, the next step involves hand-painting certain details in a different shade of grey. Then we circle back to the process of weathering, employing the techniques we've previously introduced with washes and oil paints. This stage involves applying these materials strategically to add wear, tear, and aging effects, further enhancing the model's realistic appearance. The washes accentuate the recesses and highlight the details, while the oil paints are used for subtle color variations and to create streaks or chips. This layered approach to weathering plays a crucial role in giving the model a lived-in, authentic look, as if it has just returned from a voyage. But this time around, I'll demonstrate how to apply rusty chips using a chipping sponge. This technique allows for a more random and natural distribution of the chips, giving the impression of authentic rust and wear. The sponge's texture helps create varied sizes and shapes of chips, mimicking how rust would naturally occur over time. The hatch can now be attached, allowing us to examine the final result for this episode. In our next installment, we'll focus on the ship's armament, appropriate figures and railings, leading up to its placement in the diorama, which of course is yet to be built. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day. One last thing before we part ways today. Some time ago, I reached out to my community to understand your preferences for watching scale model videos on YouTube. The majority expressed a strong preference for videos with a voiceover explaining the process. Taking this feedback to heart, I've transitioned from using just subtitles to including a voiceover in today's video. I'm eager to hear what you think about this change. Do you find it more engaging or informative? Your input is invaluable to me, so please drop a comment with your thoughts. It's important for me to know how to make these videos better for you. Thanks once again for watching, and have a wonderful day.